Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Diary of a Dad. Two of the most important things we're going to cover in today's episode is number one, we're going to look at a concept from a book that I was reading called Radical Candor. And it was just about having difficult conversations with people at work or at home, the benefits behind it as well. And secondly, a parable which I was reading through this week, which I found so interesting. It was the parable of a pottery class. So those are the two main things I want to touch upon at some point towards this episode at the end. So let's get into it. So the first part of the podcast, I'm going to talk a little bit about the things that I've been thinking about this week. So the first thing was the process of writing. So now I feel that I've gotten some sort of a blueprint of how I want to write, how I want to sort my thoughts out for the week. So now what I do is I either make rough notes on my phone or at the back of my journal if I have time, just quick bullet points or something that I want to touch upon later. And then when I have more time in the evening, then I'll expand upon that and maybe write it out in my laptop. That'd be the second phase, where the notes I've made, write it on my laptop, and then I chunk these notes down, because usually there's a lot of words, and I found that if I write a lot of words in my journal when it comes to the episode, then what happens is I miss a lot out, or I'm just relying too much on the journal itself, whereas I want to try to have a bit more of a natural conversation. So I chunk it down a little and turn it into short bullet points, and then I'll put that in my journal. So today it's only maybe 5 pages, whereas before it maybe 10, and most of the time I don't get through everything anyway. So I find that it's a bit more clearer. Everything in green is my lessons of the week that personally apply to me, and then red it'd be something that I am listening to, or some story that I've read during my time this week. So I found journaling really helpful. The main benefits were, number one, it helped with clarity, so sorting out my thoughts. Previously, I've been thinking about 100 different things, and then they just get left and put to the side. Whereas now, when I'm writing it down, I can filter my thoughts and discard the thoughts that I feel that they don't align with the goals that I have this year. Because there's so much you want to do, right? And if you try to do everything, then you're not going to get anything done. So things that don't align with what I need or my goals, then I'll just forget about them. And the things that are aligning with what I want to, the vision that I have for the year, that's what I'll focus on. So now I've only got a couple of things I'm focused on every single week. So in terms of benefits, clarity is definitely number one. Number two, it keeps my goals in focus. So I'm always thinking about what I want to achieve by the end of the year, and making sure that what I am thinking about, the things that I'm doing, are working towards that. And if it isn't, then stopping that and then just turning and switching my attention to something that is. And lastly, it's easier to see progress. So every week I can see that I'm improving in one way or another. And this doesn't mean vast improvements. Even if it's in a 1% increment of improving towards a goal I'm working towards, then that's enough for me. And that gives me the motivation to do more the week after, and then the week after, and then the week after. So journaling has been very helpful. One of the things I realized about journaling was that week 3 I was using it as a way just to work towards to stop working towards my goals. So by that, what I mean is that I've written everything I need to. Now I'm writing for the sake of it. Even though I've got work to be getting on with, or things I can use my time a bit more productively, I'm just writing, and I feel that I'm making progress, or I'm doing something, being useful, but really I'm not. So I think for me it was about finding the right time, the right amount of time to journal. Okay, so number 2 then is learning review feedback. So this is something to do with work. So every term, being a teacher, we have observations, and they're called learning reviews. And at the end of the learning review, we get a judgment and things that we've done well, and things that we can improve upon for me and my department. It didn't go as well as I wanted it to. So this is a new job. And initially in my mind I was making excuses, blaming everything else or the observer, quietly in my mind, because I tend not to blame other people, but sometimes you let these excuses get in your head. And the solution to that was very, very simple. I just didn't try hard enough. That's all it was. I knew that there were things I should have done, and I put them off because I thought other things were more important. But I've got to take full accountability and stop making excuses and make a plan. So I've made a plan, and the next learning review is on the 27th of January. So I've just got to execute that plan. I've made a clear timeline on what we need to do to make sure that when the next one comes, that the points that we've been told to improve upon, we absolutely smash that. And that's all there is to it. But most importantly for me, and I've always said this, is I don't want to make the same mistake twice. And if I do that, then that is an absolute failure on my part. So I want to make sure that when the next learning review comes, that the mistakes that we've made this time, they're not made again. Okay, so number 3, be a better teacher. So this week was a tough week when it came to teaching Isa Arabic. So the tajweed in the Quran that we're teaching him, and this is essentially ways to read Arabic properly with the correct pronunciation, etc. This week we've found, so we're getting pretty advanced in terms of learning and pronunciation. It has been very frustrating because we're stuck on a concept, and he's just not getting it. And I've been getting very frustrated, shouting, because I'm telling him a word and he's getting it wrong, and I'm saying, no, that's not the right way to pronounce it. And then the second, third, fourth time, he's just pronouncing that same word in the same way, and that's getting me frustrated. But ultimately, later on, after, when I was thinking about it, I realized that it's not his fault. He clearly just doesn't understand the principle that we're trying to teach right now, and I just got to explain it better. And ultimately it boils down to the fact that I'm not being a good teacher. If he's not learning the way I'm teaching him now, I need to switch it up. I shouldn't be repeating the same thing again. If he's not getting it the first and second time, clearly I need to find other ways to teach him that concept. Not shout at him and shout him louder and louder, because it's not going to get anywhere. If anything, it's going to do, number one, he's just going to not want to, he's going to get anxious when it comes to time to doing and learning together every day, and he's going to associate negative feelings and negativity around that learning. So I just had to sit back and think, okay, what other ways can I try to teach him? The book that we're using for all the other concepts has been very brilliant, because it was breaking each concept down into small steps, whereas for this one, I think it went right into it, and therefore maybe look for a different book that explains that step in a bit more detail, and there's more scaffolding there in place. And also for me, I've started using the whiteboard. So if he's pronouncing the word incorrectly, then I'll write in Arabic the word that he's pronouncing, so he can compare the two and see, okay, this is what I'm doing wrong. And that is slowly getting there. And I think for me, it's just to be a bit more patient. And it seems to work. And if it doesn't, then we'll try something else. But ultimately, I have to take that accountability and the fact that I wasn't being a very, very good teacher. So I need to do better moving forward. Okay, wins of the week. So this part of the podcast is just the things that I feel that I've improved upon this week. So the first was learning the basics of editing. So I've started using different editing software, so DaVinci Resolve initially, and then more recently CapCut Pro. And I found that CapCut has been a lot easier, intuitive, especially for a beginner. And the things that I want to do, I think CapCut's fantastic, and it's going to make my editing a lot faster and hopefully look a bit more presentable. So that's number one. Number two, I've created my first YouTube short. So if you've not watched it, then make sure you do watch it. It was good. It took a long time, and the recording wasn't fantastic. So I've made pointers on things that I'm going to improve upon. So I will do that as well. And number three, 4 or 5 days of productivity. So I've been mentioning in previous podcasts that in the evening, when the kids finally go to bed, I just do not have the energy to do any work. And usually I'll spend my time being unproductive. So either I'll be watching some anime, or watching some random YouTube video that's not going to really benefit me at all, or things along that line. Whereas this week, not Monday, I had a bit of anime to catch up on, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every evening from about 7 till about 10, 11, I've just been solid working on editing editing videos, learning on how to edit properly as well, and even the commute to school and back, I've been using it to learn about YouTube, algorithms, anything I can do to make the quality of my videos better, or when uploading to ensure that there's more eyes on what the content that I'm producing. So hopefully I can grow the channel a bit faster, add more value to other people and their lives. That's the goal. Right now I'm still stuck on 20 subscribers, so if you're not subscribed, make sure you do. But eventually I believe that in a few months, years time, things will start picking up. And I don't think I'll ever become like a celebrity. But even if I can add value to 1,000, 2,000 people, then that's fantastic. Okay, so next point is make a list of whys. So this is something that I've been doing in my journaling. So there was a guy called Rohn, if I remember correctly. I believe he's passed away now, but he was a motivational speaker. And one of the things, the clips that I saw was, if you're not feeling motivated enough to do something, then your list of whys just isn't big enough. And I've started to write down a list of whys. It's something I can refer to whenever I feel demotivated or feel that I just don't want to do something, or I don't see the point of doing it. And the list of whys can include things like, why am I working so hard or grinding or hustling in the evenings? Why am I doing that? Who am I doing it for? What will my legacy be? When I'm older, when you pass away, will you be forgotten straight away? Will only your kids remember you? Or will you have a legacy where your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids and so forth will remember your name and what you did for the family and how you changed the world? And the two most important things to me that I've been focusing on is asking myself two main questions. And the first is, what type of life am I trying to run away from? And this is a dramatic way of just saying that what are the things that I'm not really happy about, and what am I trying to change? And what life am I running towards? So the life that I don't want, things in my life right now which I'm not happy with, what are they? Okay. And the second is, what life am I running towards? The experiment was about a mouse, and they put a sensor or a string on the mouse to see how hard it's pulling. And what they did was, there was two variations of this experiment. The first was they got the scent of a cat and put it into the tube that they were doing the experiment on. And when that mouse smelled the cat, it started trying to run away and was pulling to a certain amount. And then the second variation was that they put the smell of cheese, they wafted it into the tube from the other end. So there was no cat or smell of cat this time. And they saw that the mouse was pulling towards the cheese even more. However, the third variation showed naturally that when they put the smell of the cat from behind the mouse and the smell of cheese in front, then that is when the pulling factor was at its most strongest. And this is something that's quite comparable to what I'm saying now, is that what type of life am I running away from, the cat, and what life am I running towards, the cheese. Okay, so let's go through some of the things I learned about this week, the things I've been thinking about. So like I said, I was looking into a lot of content creation type things, how to make a better thumbnail, how to make my videos better, how to edit it better so that my audience gets a better viewing experience as well. So there's going to be a lot of references to Mr. Beast for this part, so just pre-warning, disclaimer. Okay, so the first one was the concept of Kaizen. So the first episode that I published, I talked about Kaizen, and that being one of my goals, and that is incremental improvement every single day. And that goes with anything. And here, the process of incremental improvement, it relates to the content that I'm releasing. So every single week, I need to make sure that I'm improving in some way. So either that, maybe the editing is a little bit better, maybe the transitions are good, the title, the thumbnail is a little bit better, or even the way that I'm talking or the way that I'm structuring the podcast is getting a little bit better as well. So every week I can point at something that this time I've changed this a little bit and I've tried to make it a little bit more better. And that concept I'm applying very, very strongly to content creation, but also that's something I can apply to every part of my life as well. And this is a reference from Mr. Beast. He says that do one thing better in each video. So after you do 100 videos, you're going to improve your videos by at least 100 different things. And I think that's just the way forward. If one video is the exact same as the next, then something's wrong. I'm failing in one way or another. And that's something that I cannot do. Okay, next one is you have bad friends. So I was watching a compilation of Mr. Beast videos, and he was just talking about content creation and as well as improving your videos itself. He was just looking at the mindset when it comes to improving videos, and says that so many of us have bad friends. And by that, what he means is that if I send a video, or if he was to send a video to someone, most of them initially will just say, oh, fantastic, great video, you know, oh, amazing, you're gonna blow up, etc., etc. And he said that, you know, some people will genuinely feel that way, and that's great, but there will always be something in the video that they don't like, and your friends are not telling you that. And he's saying that your friends should literally roast your idea. Firstly, you need to know that your friends are the ones that actually do care about you and want what's best for you, as well as your family. But he said they need to come from a point where your video was good, but this is what you need to change, A, B, C, D, and just give points. So at least you have things to work on the next time you do your video. But the condition that when I was listening to that, I realized that that's a good point. But for me, the condition will be, number one, the person has to have some sort of experience in what we're talking about here. So if the person is creating content themselves, or something along those lines, or has had success in that field, then you know that you can value that advice a little bit more. And lastly, if they don't have experience in the field or success, then if they are potentially your target audience, then that's sufficient, because that is the person you're trying to aim that video at. That's the avatar for the video you're doing. And therefore, if they are giving you this feedback, then you have to take that and take what you want from it, but it will be valuable information. And if I'm being real with you guys, I feel like I am a hypocrite when it comes to this. Like when someone shows me something and wants some sort of feedback, I don't always give honest feedback, and that's just because of several different reasons. Number one, I only give feedback if. So number one, they explicitly ask for it. So they send me something, say, look, just be honest, roast me, I don't mind. Okay, and that's permission to, okay, let's look at it, the video properly, and analyze it, and what positive, constructive feedback can I give this person to make it better the next time. Or number two, I'm close enough to that person to know that if I did give this person negative yet constructive feedback, then it won't ruin the relationship. Otherwise, if I don't know the person well enough or don't have strong enough of a relationship, what I will do is not lie, but rather just say these are the things that I liked about the video, and leave anything which I felt could be improved upon, because they're not there, or our relationship isn't where it needs to be for me to do that. So the next part I want to talk about is from a book called Radical Candor by Kim Scott. This book, to summarize, talks about having honest conversations, whether it's personal life or in the workplace, and the way to do it properly. And she refers to, in this book, to a table or a graph, which I'll put on the screen for you. And the graph has 4 sections. 3 of the sections are the sections we're trying to avoid. So one is called ruinous empathy. This is where you care so much about this person that you don't want to hurt their feelings. So they're doing something wrong or in an incorrect way, but instead of correcting the person, because you care so much about hurting their feelings, you know it's going to hurt them. When you say this, you avoid saying anything at all. And she says that in the long term, this is very, very bad for the person you claim to care about. The second is called manipulative insincerity. This is where you know someone can improve in some way, but on purpose, you're holding back information to help them improve. And this may be because of political behavior, something's happening within the company. Let's say, for example, your boss, and this boss is doing something that they should be doing in a different way, but you know if you try to correct or advise, you're going to get in that person's bad book. So it's easy for you just to sit quietly and listen to orders and get things done, even though you know that if they were to even be aware of the information you want to share, that it would help them make a better decision. Or silent contempt. This is when you know someone is doing something they shouldn't be doing or not doing it in an inefficient way. You're on purpose remaining quiet so you can get ahead of them on the ladder at work or in some other way. There's a benefit for you for not helping someone improve. The third is called obnoxious aggression. This is where you're character assassinating people. So when they're doing something wrong, you're being very aggressive, you're saying things in terms of feedback in a way where you're hurting the person's feelings. You're saying in a way where even if they're not going to take it on board, even if it's true, the way you're saying it is they're going to become so defensive that they're automatically going to start defending themselves. So you're not saying in a way that's going to increase the likelihood of taking that type of feedback on board. The fourth is what this book is pushing for, and the title of the book as well, which is Radical Candor. This is a way of trying to give forward feedback in a way that's very specific. So you're not being general, you're talking about a specific time or example when they've done something that they shouldn't have, or a way they can improve. You're saying it in a sincere way that you genuinely want that person to become better. You're being kind about it, so you're not personally attacking that person. You're saying it in a kind, gentle way, and you're being very clear on the criticism, so giving examples as well as a potential solution. You're not just offering problems, you're offering a way where they can overcome that. And radical candor is what we should be trying to aim for. Okay, so the last one is the parable of the Pottery Class. So I read this, I listened to it a few weeks ago, to be fair, but what I was listening to this week reminded me of that. And I'll tell you the story first. So the story was about a university professor, and this was a pottery class. And what he did was he split his class into two groups. So group A, their objective was to make a vase or pot every single day for a month. So their goal was to make 30 pots by the end of the month. So their focus was on quantity, just make as many as you can. Group B, their focus was to make one pot by the end of the month. So their focus had to be making one perfect pot, and they only had to make one by the end of the month. And the results were that at the end of the month, the judge picked 5 pots, and he picked all 5 pots from group A, the group where they had to focus on quantity. And the lessons that I derived from this, okay, because one group was quantity focused and the other was quality focused, and the lesson I derived from that is focus on quantity over quality. But the condition would be that it has to be low stakes. So I'd refer that back to me doing podcasts or videos. It doesn't cost me anything. I sit back and I do a video. It's very, very low stakes. I'm not pouring millions of pounds into a deal, and therefore I can focus on quantity. And I believe that you'll get better just by doing. So I'm becoming faster at editing, more efficient. I am removing the fear of what if, it isn't good enough. It doesn't matter anymore. And I've already said in my mind, the mantra in my head is that the first 100 videos are going to be absolutely rubbish. And that's fine, because I'm learning. And I believe when it comes to low stakes especially, People have perfection paralysis. They overthink something so much that either they never end up doing it, or their rate of production is so slow, they're not getting traction fast enough, then they eventually give up. So just get it done. If it's low stakes, just go ahead, whatever you want to do, get it done, because the first time will be bad anyway, but make sure that the second time is better than the first, and the third is better than the second, and so forth. And that is the parable of the pottery class. Okay, and that's about it for the podcast this week. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you found it beneficial, then please like and subscribe to my channel. See you guys next week.